And now to formally begin today's program, may I request everyone to please rise for the singing of the Philippine National Anthem to be given to us by the LG Biggest City Chorale with Mr. J. Osorno conducting, and to be followed by the singing of our Himno Bigasenyo and our community dance sa Ja Digos.
Bayang magiliw, pelas na silanganan, alap ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, luyod ka ng magiti, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisihin. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mamaga, may hilagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kisap ng matawat mo'y tagumpay na nagdininig. Ang bituin na taraw niya kailan pag may magdidilim. Lupa ng araw naman ating pagsinta mo'y langit sa piling mo. Ang ligaya na pa may mga api ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Itaas natin ang ating kanang kamay at sabay-sabay nating bigkasin ang panunumpa sa watawat ng Pilipinas. Ako ay Pilipino, buong katapatang nanunumpa sa watawat ng Pilipinas at sa bansang kanyang sinasagisag, na may dangal, katarungan at kalayaan, na ipinakikilos ng sambayanang makadiyos, makakalikasan, makatao at makabansa.
Community dance sa Digos, and may request the office of the city agriculturist to lead us in our community dance. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Hukpong Bigoseños, ready na? Ready na? Alright, it's time to groove and dance to the beat of Sadya Digos. Support of our city agriculturist, Engineer Jerome Escobar. Sadya Digos. You may now take your seats, everyone. Dormitory Acting District Jail Warden, Jail Chief Inspector Jul Akbar Jamiri. Palakpakan po natin. From the female dormitory, we have District Jail Warden, Jail Chief Inspector Ellen Rose Sarahena. Palakpakan po natin. And to our dedicated personnel from the TMC and CSU, palakpakan po natin. Ug kanatong tanan, mga job order workers and regular employees of the City Government of Digos, magpalakpakan po tayong lahat. Happy Monday, everyone! Maayong buntag kanatong tanan. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we gather not only to commemorate a historic milestone, but to honor the courage, resilience, and unity that shaped our beloved city. The Digos Liberation Commemoration is more than a remembrance of the past. It is a celebration of freedom, patriotism, and the enduring spirit of every Digosenyo. Ladies and gentlemen, as we continue with today's commemoration, let us take a meaningful look back at the story of courage and freedom that shaped our city. To share with us the history of Digos Liberation, may we call on Honorable Lolimar John Igos, SK Federation President, for the reading of the history of the World War II Digos Junction. Let's give him a warm round of applause, please.
The Battle of Digos was fought from December 31, 1941 to May 3, 1942, and was the longest engagement by the Filipino and American forces against the Japanese Mindanao during World War II. Despite shortage of ammunition, the courage and bravery of the Allied forces in the Digos Junction held the Japanese for more than 4 months before retreating to Kabakan for tactical reasons. Section 5, Liberation of Digos. The Allied forces reached Digos from central Mindanao on April 27, 1945. The Japanese defense held on until the night when they withdrew their forces and fled to the foothills of Mount Apo. Digos was liberated following day, April 28. Eyes on the screen and watch this video as it will further give you a background while we commemorate Digos Liberation Day today. Daghang salamat.
Alright, thank you very much, Honorable Lolimar John Igos, for sharing with us the history of legacy of this meaningful occasion. Indeed, remembering our past helps guide us toward a stronger future. To further understand the significance and official declaration of the celebration, we now proceed to the reading of the past ordinance for Digos City Liberation Day. May we call on our City Vice Mayor, Attorney Johari Banya.
Mahayong buntag, Mayor Joseph Cagas, my colleagues in public service in the City Government of Digos, sa tuang mga uniformadong kusog, sa tuang mga veterano o pamilya sa mga veterano, kanatong tanan, maayong buntag. April 27 of 1945 may be a lifetime ago for most of us. And Digos City was very different from the Digos City we find ourselves today. But even for a moment, let us relive the Digos City 81 years ago and the bravery, courage of our forefathers who fought side by side with the American forces, the Philippine Scouts, to secure our liberty, our freedom, and our nationhood. Digos City was among the more important centers, settlements during World War II because Digos to Davao segment of the Philippine National Highway was the first to be established. The second one being the Carmen Junction or the Zaire Highway from Carmen to Cagayan de Oro City. So there are two major highway systems during World War II, and predictably, these would play a major role during the Pacific War, specifically in Mindanao. During the attack of the Japanese, they came in three sectors. One being in Parang, Maguindanao, second one in Cagayan de Oro, and the third one, and most significantly for Digos, in Davao City. The strategy was for the Japanese to come from these three entry points in Mindanao, then converge in central Mindanao, in the vicinity of Carmen in Cotabato, to trap Philippine and U.S. forces, and then complete the liberation and complete the conquest of Mindanao and of the entire Philippines. And so they did. On December of 1941, Japanese forces landed in Cotabato City, Japanese forces landed in Cagayan de Oro City, and the third and most significant, most powerful landed in Davao City. As it was planned, the Japanese forces encountered minimal resistance in Cagayan de Oro City and in Cotabato City, and hence they proceeded to close in on the Filipino and American forces at the Carmen Junction. No, kaning Carmen, kanang mo to Cagayan de Oro via North Cotabato. That is a very important junction. But the Philippine forces, joint Philippine and American forces, held on at the Digos City Junction. And that junction is exactly where you find that lion coming into Digos, up to the entire stretch going to MacArthur Highway and on to Tres de Mayo and Colorado. That is where you find at the present still existing pillboxes, tunnels, and defensive establishments of the Japanese after they occupied Digos, then just a barrio of Santa Cruz. Because of the bravery and courage of those who defended the Digos Junction, it became possible for the trapped forces or the forces in Cotabato, which would otherwise be trapped in Carmen Junction, to proceed without having been entrapped by the Japanese forces coming in from Davao City. And hence, Digos City is among the very few places in the entire Philippines declared by President Ramos as milestones in the history of the Philippines during World War II. As it was in the colonization or conquest, Digos City also played a very important role in the liberation of Mindanao and of the entire Philippines in 1945. Again, on this day, 81 years ago, the American forces reached Digos, then overnight drove the Japanese forces away to the direction of Davao City and in the foothills of Mount Apo, signaling the complete fall of the defenses of the Japanese in the Davao region and paving the way for the reconquest of Davao City, the last major Philippine city to be held under Japanese occupation, and hence signaling the victory of the American forces, the Filipino-American forces over the Japanese in World War II. And so your 8th City Council remembers this day not just for posterity, but for a proud people to honor its heroes and for peace and education, for us to value our freedom and what it took for our forefathers to give their lives to secure the freedom that we enjoy today. And hence, I read to you some salient points of the ordinance, City Ordinance 2025-262. The Declaration of Policy Digos was a site of important events during World War II. The courage, bravery, and sacrifice of the soldiers, scouts, and guerrillas who fought the longest and one of the most intense battles in the island of Mindanao during the war is a testament to the cause of our freedom as a nation, which must never be forgotten. Thus, it is the policy of the City of Digos to perpetually honor the heroism, gallantry of our soldiers, scouts, and guerrillas who courageously and valiantly fought for the cause of national liberty at the Digos Junction during World War II. Second, to instill in the people's hearts and minds the desire to preserve our freedom. Third, to highlight the important role of Digos in national history for peace, posterity, and tourism. The salient portions as follows: historical context. Section 4, the Digos Junction. It is a segment of the Davao-Cotabato Highway System running from Digos to Cabacan to Cotabato City, which was one of the three subsectors in the southern end of Mindanao Defense Corridor during World War II. The Digos Junction played a vital role in the defense and liberation of Mindanao and of the Philippines in general. Section 5, the Battle of Digos. The Battle of Digos was fought from December 31, 1941 to May 3, 1942 and was the longest engagement by Filipino and American forces against the enemy in Mindanao during World War II. Despite shortage of ammunition, the Allied forces at the Digos Junction courageously held the Japanese for more than 4 months before tactically retreating to Cabacan. Section 6, the liberation of Digos. Filipino and American forces reached Digos from central Mindanao on April 27, 81 years ago today, and the Japanese defense held on until the night when they withdrew their forces and fled to the direction of Mount Apo. Digos was liberated the following day, April 28, 1945, and the liberation of Digos was key to the recapture of Davao City, the last Philippine major city under Japanese control, signaling the end of World War II in the country. Section 7, April 28 of each day shall be celebrated as a Digos Liberation Day to commemorate when Digos was freed from Japanese occupation. This will be observed annually in honor of the heroism and gallantry of our soldiers, scouts, and guerrillas who fought at the Digos Junction for the defense and liberation of Mindanao and the Philippines during World War II. Enacted unanimously by the 8th City Council on April 14, 2025. Daghang salamat ug maayong buntag.
Thank you so much, City Vice Mayor Atty. Joy Banya, for the reading of the ordinance.
As World War II raged across the Pacific, the Philippine Islands became a critical battleground, caught between the fierce struggle of the Allied forces and the Japanese occupation. December 8, 1941, Japan's attack on Davao marked the start of occupation. Initial Japanese advances, including air raids and bombing of key areas such as the Sasa Airport. December 19, 1941, Japanese naval fleets landed in Davao. December 20th, 1941, Davao attack intensified. Japanese naval fleet was able to slip in silently to Davao Gulf, while U.S. maritime blockade was in the southwest of the Gulf. Too far to stop the incursion. December 24th, 1941, after Davao force was dispersed and went missing, General Joseph Vachon, commander of 101st Infantry Division, Philippine Commonwealth Army, sent Lieutenant Colonel Howard Frizzell to set up defensive at Digos Junction area to prevent the Japanese drive towards Digos Picket Road. January to March 1942, the long battle in Digos ensued. The unified forces fought bravely, but due to massive offensive attacks from by the Japanese under General Kawaguchikaya Taku, detachments reinforcement coming from Cotabato City and Parang, General 𝐋𝐈𝐕𝐄 ordered the defense force set up in Dagos to do a tactical retreat towards Kaba, and set up new defense headquarters in there, in fear of being cut off from Port Del Monte headquarters in Bukidnon. That eventually led to the surrender of Dagos to the Japanese in May 12, 1942. Under the Japanese rule, war atrocities were rampant, rape, murder, slavery included. Victims were indiscriminately inflicted with brutality, irregardless of whether young or old, but mostly women. In April 27, 1945, the liberation of Dagos marked a significant milestone in the Mindanao campaign. It facilitated further advances toward Davao City and helped secure the southern Philippines from Japanese holdouts. The local population, many of whom suffered under occupation, welcomed the returning Allied forces with relief and hope for recovery. The battle and subsequent liberation paved the way for rebuilding and development in Dagos and the surrounding regions. In March 1945, a coordinated offensive was launched to clear Japanese forces from Dagos and secure the surrounding highlands. Guerrilla resistance, Filipino guerrillas, operating behind enemy lines, played a crucial role in disrupting Japanese supply routes and gathering intelligence. April 28, 1945, Gen Woodruff of the 24th Division reached Dagos and quickly overwhelmed the defending Japanese forces, who were mainly prepared to repel attacks from the sea, not from the rear. The attack has finally liberated Dagos on April 28, 1945.
I thank you for the meaningful video presentation. Truly, the story of Dagos liberation reminds us of the courage, sacrifice, and unity that shaped the freedom we enjoy today. It serves as a powerful reminder that honoring our history also means continuing the legacy of service and progress. And now, ladies and gentlemen, as we move forward with today's program, please turn your attention to our right screen for the accomplishment report of the Office of the City Agriculturist. Again, on behalf of the City Government of Dagos, headed by our elected officials, City Mayor Honorable Joseph H. Cagas, taus-puso po kaming nagpapasalamat sa presensya ng bawat isa nandito ngayon. Thank you so much for joining our flag ceremony and Monday Convocation.
Kabuntagon, adlaw mo subang sa umahan kinabuhi nagpadayon sa kamot sa mag-uuma paglaom ginatanong uban sa serbisyong nawalay kahuman sa barangay kami anaa matabang sa katawan na naglaom pa sa tanang programa alam sa tauswagan agrikultura maoy among kalihukan subang sa umahan kinabuhi nagpadayon. Sa kamot sa mag-uuma paglaong ginatanong, uban sa serbisyong nawalay kahuman. Sa barangay kami anaa, matabang sa katawan na naglaong pa sa tanang programa. Alang sa kauswagan, agrikultura maoy among kalihukan. Kami ang Digo City Agriculture Office, alagad sa umawalagan sa lungsod. Tanong kahayupan among giyatiman para sa kalambuan sa katawan. Kapag sa umawalay undan sa produksyon ng panginabuhian, sa mga kalipay makita sa mga libon. Lungsod mo daw binhiug uno mamong gihatag teknolohiya gila ukitudlok sa mais. Kung may gulay o prutas kalambuan sa amo yung isuportahan. Livestock, fisheries, utuban pa programang likon para sa masa sa matag proyekto. Padayon ang serbisyo para sa kaubaon nga klaro. Kami ang City Agriculture Office, alagad sa kumahalagan sa lungsod. Tanong kahayong panahong giyatiman para sa kalambuan sa katauhan. Kapag sa umawalay unang sa produksyon ng panginabuhian, sa mata kalipay makita sa mga libon. Lungsod mo dato, bisan unsa pa ang kalisod nga mo abot. Magkahiusa dili magpabiling sa kahuo sa suporta upag tinabangay. Kauswagan na tugyod maangko. Kami ang Digo City Agriculture Office, kusog sa uman, kusog sa katawan. Sa mga programa paglaong ginagawa, alam sa lungsod nga mauswago. Sa mga sulod ang gawamahon, City Agriculture ang kauban. Paglayon ta sa kapanunog, alam sa kasayan nga ugma. Among kalihukan. Kami ang Digo City Agriculture Office, alagad sa umawalagan sa lungsod. Tanong kahayupan among giyatiman para sa kalambuan sa katawan. Kapag sa umawalay undan sa produksyon ng panginabuhian, sa mga kalipay makita sa mga libon. Lungsod mo dato, binhiug uno mamong gihatag
Alright, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to the Office of the City Agriculturist, headed by Engineer Jerome Escobarte. Palakpakan po natin sila for sharing your accomplishment, report, your dedication, and continue efforts in serving the agricultural sector, contribute to the growth and progress of our community. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, may we invite our city government of Digo's elected officials for the turnover of our wheelchair. Dito po tayo sa harap, ma'am and sir. Again, may we invite our city government of Digos elected officials. Alright, so here are the beneficiaries of our wheelchair and walking aid. From Purok, Jamelina San Miguel, Mary Kay Racasa. From Purok, Kangaroo Luna Extension, Barangay Zone 3, Cherilyn Sarida. From Rojas Extension, Barangay Zone 3, Melanie Rodriguez. From Purok, Bakhaw, Punta Biao, Barangay Cogon, Feliminito Ladesa. And from Barangay Quiagot, Rosalina Cabasag Palma. Alright, so those are our beneficiaries and our wheelchair and walking aids. So may we proceed with our photo opportunity with our elected officials and our beneficiaries. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Palapakan po natin our beneficiaries of our wheelchair and walking aid. Thank you so much to our city government of Digos elected officials. And now, ladies and gentlemen, to further inspire us as we begin another week of service and commitment, may we call in our city administrator,
Maing buntag sa tanan. Maing buntag sa tanan. Nanguli na dyan, no? Gamay na kita nabilin diri. Anyway, duha lang ni kabutang, no? Katong Digos Celebration Day, natay mga heroes sa una, o karon ang atong mga bagong heroes na pod ang atong mga mag-uuma. Balik na sa unang punto, dako kay ng butang ng liberation sa Digos, just to remind us na freedom is not free. No, dili libre ang freedom. Daghang mga kinabuhi ang nakalas para lang makabot nato ang tinuod nga freedom. Pero ang freedom is not a constant state. Dili tungod kay nana mo'y freedom, magpadayo na. Freedom needs nurturing, protection. Mao na bitaw, I'm glad to know nga na atong women in uniform to always protect that freedom. Ang paboritong pamunong ni Manong John, when good men do nothing, evil will triumph. Mawala na siya, ano? Ang ikaduha na kong mga bagong heroes karon, yesterday, si Mayor Joseph Cagas, nagpalabas mo to siya, reels, no? About honoring ang atong mga mag-uuma. Sa makaron, salamat ni Jerome Uscabarte, ang siyudad sa Digos, permanenteng andam nga mutabang sa mga mag-uuma. Kami usab ang among ginikanan, ang among lula, nagsugod jud mi nga mag-uuma. So, ako lang ibalik tong gamay iyang gitext gahapon sa kuha. Ang una sa tanano, karon po nato nakitaan during sa crisis sa lana, unsa ka importante. Mao bitaw karon unya, ginatabangan nato ang mag-uuma, pinaagi ka ng P20 program. So karong hapon, magsugod ng dry run pata karong hapon, nga ang City of Digos mupagawas mutabang sa NFA para sa itong gitawag nga P20 program. Unsa man ang P20 program? mao na ang 20 pesos per kilo nga bugas. So ugma na magsugod pero karong hapon inabanan ni Sir Lalang Igos magsugod sila og dry run karong hapon para ugmang buntag magsugod ang Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3, especially itong mga beneficiaries nga priority mao ang mga seniors, PWD, 4Ps o unsa pa to isa? Solo parents. Unsa man ang P20 program para lang masayran sa tanan ang NFA nagapalit og sa mga farmers around 33 pesos per kilo na palay just to guarantee ang mga farmers nga mag-uuma. So in a way ginasubsidize nato ang sa gobyerno og 13 pesos mao na pag-abot sa katawhan ang bugas mahog na lang og 20 pesos per kilo. So mao na isang sa katabang gagihimo sa national government sa atong mga farmers sa syudad sa Digos ug sa tibuok Pilipinas. Ako lang basahon ang salute ni Mayor Joseph Cagas sa tanang mag-uuma sa syudad sa Digos. Your hands feed families, your sweat sustain communities, your sacrifices secure our future. I'm hoping one day ang Pilipinas mahimo usab sama sa Thailand nga natay food sufficiency program. Kay lisod kayo mulambo ang komunidad kung daghan gihapon nga gutom. Mahimo lang nato ni nga mahimong food sufficient kung permanente ang atong tabang sa atong mga mag-uuma. So, mao lang to, mabuhay ang atong mag-uuma o maayong buntag kaninyong tanan.
Alright, thank you so much to our City Administrator, Mr. Rex, for Teach Tagas. Palakpakan po natin. So, before we end today's flag ceremony and Monday Convocation, let us carry with us the spirit of patriotism, unity, and dedication to public service. There you go, ladies and gentlemen of Convocation. That concludes our Monday Convocation and flag ceremony. To the host office, thank you so much, City Agriculturist Office, for hosting our Monday Convocation. Maraming salamat po. This has been your host, Nicolas Lozano Batron.